สวัสดีค่ะ everyone
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
I think we can start. Nina, do you have a topic you'd like to bring up?
Yes. In the book that Alan composed of all the talks, there is a quote from Jonathan, which I find so inspiring. He said, "Any moment of intellectual understanding is appreciating something one has heard. And any moment of new understanding is a confirmation of something one has heard." And I like it very much because it stresses so much the importance of hearing again and again. And then I was considering, what do I hear often from Ajahn? For example, about letting go, and that one cannot do anything, and to have confidence, and no one can make seeing arise. And also the expression, "oh gone," that it is so fast. And it helps very much to see the difference between conventional reality and absolute realities. And in this light, I found also Mark's questions and remarks so very inspiring to consider more again. Like he said, he had a feeling that he's forced to make no self drop. But of course, that is not so, but it is very worthwhile to consider this more, that one does not have to feel forced.
I think that last point, Nina, is also that people tend to have the idea that they should believe what the Buddha has taught, that they should have right view about everything. And so they feel obliged to think or believe that. But as we've discussed many times, that was not his teaching at all. His teaching is about verifying what can be verified little by little, and not trying to sort of come to an understanding of the whole of the teachings.
And I heard from Ajahn, when hearing arises, the idea of I is there instantly. And then I considered more. Well, when there is hearing and thinking about what is heard, I do not think that I hear. Rather, I have an interest in what I hear, but I don't consider so much I am hearing. And that's a point I find a bit difficult.
It's there already right now. No need to say out, I am sitting or I am hearing. But what's that? Who else except the moment of hearing? No one there except I there. Unknowingly, the asava, avijjasava, tittasava, bhavasava is there. That's why even just no idea at all now, but the I is there. No idea. Whatever is there is taken for I, unknowingly. Otherwise, there must be the understanding of the truth of that very moment as what is it? If it's not I, but since it's taken for I all the time, no question about that at all. But after hearing, no I, so what is there? At that moment of considering, it's not the moment when there's no understanding, no hearing, no considering at all. I is there unknowingly, but hearing, no one. So what is it now? What is taken for I see is just our reality, conditioned to see a certain object unexpectedly all the time. Just having such understanding of the truth of what is there is not anyone or anything, but it's there by conditions. That's all, little by little. It's time not to forget to understand that which is now sees or hears or thinks. Otherwise, it's not the moment of understanding it, but moment of just remembering it as it's not sound. But as long as the characteristic of that which is there is not directly known, how can it begin to be no thing and no one, only that which arises and experience an object right now? So it's moment of hearing again and again as reminder, not to think about other things far away, but only now. Now it's so short. And it's moment of that which no need to say any word, but the characteristic of that which arises to experience an object is not known yet. But the truth is that it's so great, like manindriya, very important. Without that which arises to experience anything, can there be anything known as what is seen and heard and thought about? So it's the reality which arises by conditions to see, to hear, to think. Just remember, or by conditions, the understanding of that is not forgotten. That is that which is there, but it's not known clearly as it is yet. It's just moment of beginning to think about it, to consider the truth, what is true. It's so true at moment when it's there, and then it's gone. Learning to understand what is there as different characteristics begins to see the difference between moment to moment of seeing and hearing and thinking. They are all gone. So life is just the process of the moment of experiencing an object from time to the end of life, and then begin again. Without understanding the object or what is there as it can be directly known, directly, not to be forgotten, little by little. No, how can anyone can do? No, impossible at all. No one can do anything at all. It's just by conditions. Even to think about it, to begin to see the characteristic which sees, it sees and sees is the moment of experiencing what is seen. That's all. This is the only way, a very, very subtle path leading to understand or directly experience the form of the truth. Otherwise, no other way, because the first truth is now that which arises and gone instantly, literally, from moment to moment. It takes quite a long, long time to understand the truth, that there are many levels of understanding. Who does not know that there is seeing right now? But seeing is I or someone. But in truth, it's just that which is conditioned to arise and see and then gone instantly. Just consider whether it's true or not, and the understanding of the truth begin to be firmer and firmer. And this level of understanding cannot let go completely, absolutely, the idea of self of things, but it begins to develop the understanding of what is there in life. When there are conditions as understanding the truth of it, that it can be known, but not at will, but by conditions. Hearing again and again and again, and right understanding understands whether how much understanding of its characteristic as just a characteristic of a reality in life from moment to moment. Nothing to do but to consider the truth, to have confidence, parami, satya parami, to understand the truth of it with Virya Paramam, Kanti Paramam, and so on.
Ajahn, it's so difficult to realize that one takes seeing for self, but I think it's helpful to consider, you say often it's gone, and that helps a lot, that it is not self. We don't realize it's gone. Maybe that is the key to solve this.
By no one, see, only the accumulation of understanding develops so firm enough to condition moment of directly understanding what is there with awareness directly on that object. No word, but it's there. So now it's only understanding the truth of it little by little while it's there. Seeing is there now. And it's moment of not forgetting the reality of that which just experience what is seen. It's there, a reality, experiencing what is seen. As the kusala and ignorance has been accumulated years and years ago from moment to moment, very, very rapidly, very quickly. So how can the elimination of wrong understanding and taking it for something inside can be eradicated at once? It's impossible. But the way of understanding is there, beginning to understand little by little, like what has been accumulated as a kusala, ignorance, and attachment by that way, just little by little from moment to moment. So the way to eradicate it has to be from moment to moment of understanding little by little until right understanding, understand how much understanding of what is there as it is. There is here right now, how much understanding of the truth of seeing and everything in life from moment to moment, depending on conditions. And the accumulation of right understanding develops gradually, little by little, until its moment of directly understanding the characteristic of a characteristic right now. No choice, by conditions only. So the understanding of anatta begins to be firmer and firmer to gradually let go the idea of I or thing in it. That's the only way, the subtle way to eliminate and finally eradicate absolutely the wrong understanding, the ignorance, which take what it says as something or unknown right now. No idea, but the I is there sitting or lying down, see, depending on what it's there as taken for any position. But in truth, what is that cannot be body, cannot be anything at all. It's only the conditioned reality arising and falling away in split seconds. Unknown until it can be known, little by little, one by one, to understand how many different realities in life. Seeing is a moment, hearing is another moment, thinking is another moment. Only that in life, on and on and on, 6 stories. Only that.
Ajahn, you often say, no arms, no legs, there is seeing. And that's a very good reminder, since we think of ourselves as arms and legs.
It is not just to be remembered, but it can be directly experienced. Otherwise, it cannot let go the idea of leg or arm or whatever is there as usual. But in truth, seeing now is moments of many seeing, appears as seeing as a nimitta of seeing, not hearing, not touching. So the truth is there, no matter what level, there must be the nimitta of that, which is not just only one, appear as not arising and falling away yet, just right now, Nothing arises and falls away, but in truth, the absolute truth, it can be learned to let go intellectually, that actually a moment of seeing. Can what is seen be something like chair or bed or shoe? Impossible. It's only that which is directly experienced by our reality, which is the chief of experience the object clearly, not with understanding, as much as it is conditioned to arise, is just to see that clear, while the other mental factors arising together share the same object, experience the same object, but not as seeing it so clear as that which is the chief of experiencing. This is the difference in a moment, the citta and the cetasikas. Now, the understanding is gradually, unknowingly developed little by little to let go wrong understanding, which think that it is seen at once as something, some people or leg or arm. But in truth, how can it be seen the whole picture? Just only that which impinges on the eye best, and that is seen, only that is seen. But it's so very quickly arising and falling away. Unknowingly, so what appears is always the nimitta of no matter what. Nimitta of feeling, nimitta of whatever is there. Because the arising and falling away of each one has to be experienced. And in truth, what is seen now, with right understanding is so strong, so very clear. What appears can be known as only that which appears just right now. But the understanding is deeper and clearer of only one object. One object means that the other objects are not there at all. Only one object. Imagine. One object is seen, otherwise it cannot be known as it is, as that which sees the moment of experiencing only, and that which is seen a moment of that which is the object only. Where's the world? Where's someone? Or where's something? Is that not true? But still, that appears as nimitta. Just right now, exactly the same. But the understanding begins to understand what is there from moment to moment. Sound is there, no thought, no seeing, no smelling, nothing is there, only the object of that which hears it, and then gone. Just arise to hear and then gone. No matter in what life, at any time, it just here when it's conditioned to arise just to hear. It's a truth, it's there in life all the time, as it is, secretly. No thought about it. But the truth cannot be changed at all. That's the way, a subtle way to let go the subtle accumulated of ignorance and attachment and all kinds of akusala. Just understanding firmly whether it's true, when it's true, it keeps on developing to have more confidence of the truth, to condition the experiencing clear stage by stage of that which is now appearing. Together, not clear at all, not as it is. As the mass of everything, the world and things, but in truth, a moment of experiencing an object.
And Nina, it's not just what is seen that is taken for something or someone, for arms, for legs, for patterns, for different colors and so on, but also the seeing itself is taken for I experience, I see the arms and legs, I see the other people different from what someone else sees. So even the seeing now, there is the idea of I see that comes in so quickly all the time. I experience the arms and legs. I see the different colors. I can see the books in the room different from what anyone else may experience.
But
So
do
it's
I
there.
really think that way? I wonder whether I think that way.
I think the point is, as Jan stressed, it's not necessarily in words, but there is that impression that it's I who sees. There is that assuming of a self, even though one's not articulating, oh, it's I that see arms and legs. But the idea is there, coming in so quickly by way of asavas, and then a little stronger, sometimes thinking about, oh, what can I see out of the window? What am I seeing? What am I thinking about now? It's there, that idea of I that follows the sensed or experiences so quickly, the moments of seeing and hearing so quickly. There's the impression of I that experience.
But I think Nina's point is perhaps that it's, as we've said many times, it's what appears that can be understood, and it's not that we should be looking for certain kinds of reality.
I think that maybe
Not looking for it, as you say, that it is no self. Mark had many questions about it, that he feels forced, a bit forced, to drop the idea of self. I found Mark's remarks helpful to consider.
then it's a wrong understanding if there's the idea I should drop the idea of self, because the point is the development of understanding of what is there, what is here now. So when there is the thinking about I, or the impression that it's I that see, or something that's seen, it's the understanding of that way of thinking, that view that arises at that moment, different from moments of seeing and hearing. So it's not a matter of dropping anything or doing anything or letting go of anything, but understanding begins to work its way. And when understanding begins to understand that what is seen is just the sound, just the visible object, and what is heard is just the sound, and it is just seeing which hears now, then the understanding itself leads to the letting go, the dropping of the idea of self little by little, not I doing anything or forced to realize anything at all. Because the idea of I is so deeply ingrained, so deeply rooted, whatever is heard, quickly there's the idea of, oh, what should I do? I should understand this, or I should let go of the idea of self. But that's the wrong understanding.
That's very helpful, yes, yes.
Like we hear about no arms or legs, and the wrong understanding can quickly come in. Oh, there should be understanding there are no arms or legs. That's the wrong way. But just begin to understand what is there and consider whether there really are arms and legs in reality, whether there really is an I that sees. So it's the careful considering and the understanding itself that leads the way.
We have the idea I should again, and that's not helpful. I should drop the idea of arms and legs or something like that. That's a good reminder that you say.
That's the wrong way, or the idea, oh, there should be more understanding, or I've heard this, there shouldn't be any idea of I see. That's all the wrong idea. That's all the story of self accumulating more and more because of the strong clinging to understanding, clinging to I knowing, and so on. But even those moments can be understood. They're real, they're dhammas, also not self.
At moment of hearing, is there arm or leg? to be truthful to the truth from the very beginning. This is the development of understanding the truth and be truthful to the truth. At moment of hearing, is the arm or leg. So true. And that can be new because it's so true. But not by trying to do anything at all, but to understand that at that very moment, what can be known is only what is there, appearing. This is the way to let go attachment, so very, very firm of that which does not appear as it's still there. In truth, nothing, only one reality at a time, appearing by many different conditions, not at anyone's will, because actually will is not anyone. Anything cannot be taken for people, thing at all. At moment of hearing is the arm or leg. And that's so true. And at moment of realizing the truth, it has to be that which is now heard about as no one at all, no thing at all. Only nimitta of a reality appearing as it's not the other reality. And that's the way to begin to attend to the characteristic with a little more considering, reflecting of the characteristic which is there. Gradually, so is the arm and leg now. Understanding has to be such, no matter about what, the truth of it is there to be considered, to be understood, to have more moment of attending, considering what is there as it is. The accumulation and the development of right understanding, patience, effort, whatever, no one there at all. Different moments, different conditions. So what is the benefit of understanding the words of the teaching about Dhamma? It is to understand what is there deeper and deeper until the truth appears, to the right understanding develops, degree to degree of understanding clearer and clearer, little by little, to know how come to understand what is there. When we talk about Advent, is a moment of understanding what is there as seeing. Right now it seems, it appears as it's there all the time, but in truth, there must be hearing in between, another reality in between. No understanding of anyone if there's no attention to just one reality at a time. Not to forget the truth we have learned about it, no one. Hardness is only hardness. And now there is hardness appearing. It's just that which is touched. They are all real, but how can they appear as they are? When there's no understanding. And when it's not known as it is dead, it means that the understanding is not enough. That's why study more, learn more, hearing more, consider more. That's all. As we have heard one word of the truth, and more and more and more and more, little by little, it conditions moment of firm confidence of the truth. That's there to be known. It's there to understand its truth.
Peter, are you trying to say something?
Can we later also discuss about the last week? Remember about these rules and regulation in the Vinaya, because there was one monk by the name of Subhada. As soon as Buddha's died, he was in the Sangha. He wanted to break the rules, and it was Mahakassapa who quickly tried to restore all the teachings of Buddha, because that was connected with the talk on Saturday. Can we talk about it later, about the importance of this rule? That's why we have today the authenticity of Buddha's teaching. That was.
I think the point is who but a Buddha which would know which rules can be abandoned or replaced. So I think the point of that Venerable Kassapa made was if anyone wished to ask questions or make any changes, it should have been addressed to the Buddha. But once the Buddha has passed away, then no more changes can be made, because of the Buddha's great wisdom. He understood what was necessary and what should be there. And I think that Carmen's question from last week, Carmen can't join today, but she actually mentioned she'd be glad if we continued these discussions, and she will listen later. She's and I think her main concern was, why do we say that it's necessary to follow the Vinaya, and why do we say it's good to come to these discussions or to travel to India, but not good to go on retreats? She's gone on a retreat now, and not good to go and meditate. These were her topics of concern. So maybe I'll let Ajahn address your question and hers further.
Thank you.
We have to understand now what is the benefit of the teachings of the Buddha, no matter Vinaya, Sutta, or Abhidhamma. Is it true? And it's not known as it is, as it's not true right now as it is. What is better not to understand it while it's there, which can be understood, or just it doesn't mind. It doesn't matter at all whether to know it or to not to know it. So Vinaya is for remember, follow, or to understand. If not for understanding whatever, as in monk's life, not lay life at all, It depends on understanding of what is there as it is. That the most important thing, no matter it is Vinaya or Sutta or Abhidhamma, to understand only what is there. Monk can understand, lay people can understand, man can understand, woman can understand, the child can understand, the old age can understand. When there are conditions to understand. That's right. What is the Vinaya? It's just to read, to follow, or to understand the truth of each Vinaya, each one of the rule. Is the ignorance, attachment, so many different in the world, no matter how many people are there, different moment in a moment. So Vinaya is for those who understand reality clearer, better. For example, ignorance and attachment is there. Who doesn't have it? But how can it be known as it is to let go what is there, which is dangerous? That's why just understand what is meant by Vinaya. For whom? Can lay people follow Vinaya as much, but not as much as monk? And for example, lay people can have money, spend money in any way, but for monk, can they just receive money? What for? Why not? See, not just to be followed, but to understand oneself, how much attachment conditioned by ignorance, to have attachment, even just a very little of no matter what is there. So understand the danger of all kinds of akusala, motivate different life to follow at moment of understanding, study, and live as monk life is different from lay people life. But the truth is the truth. What can be eradicated on the first stage? The idea of self and doubt about what is there now. And lay people can attain enlightenment to the high degree of anagami and then arhata. But after having eradicated all kinds of kilesa, it's impossible just to live with lay people because they think about what? Worry, conditions all the time, this and that on TV and in life. But that's not the way the one who doesn't have any kilesa to live just like that. So the point of being a monk is to have right understanding enough to let go all kinds of ignorance and attachment and all kinds of akusala, to follow the Buddha's path. See, Sariputta, Ananda, Kassapa follow the Buddha's path. But who today would like to become monk? What for? To study the teaching or to destroy the teaching? For example, if it's not the words of the Buddha, it destroys his word. Because he said, Satipatthana, not Passapattana, not Vedanapatthana, because it depends on sati only to have what as patthana, whether it is kaya or Vedana or Citta or Dhamma. See, what is the meaning of each one? How can it be followed? What is the point? Monks know because they have such understanding strong enough to live the lay people's life. So even just a little attachment, monks sees the danger. But for us, as long as it's not strong as Dhamma, it's conditioned, but it can be known, and the wrong understanding can be irritated like monks, but the way they live are different. So understanding what is one's life. So one's life is different from lay people. Which way you would like to live, as monk or as lay people? It cannot be forced. It has to be one's own accumulation. So each rules concerning of letting go, the attachment of the worldly things, sensuous object, money, house, cars, television, or whatever it's on. Otherwise, it's not one's life. So be truthful to the development of right understanding, that one can develop understanding in lay people's life. One does have accumulation to be monk. That's why it's so true. And what is true can be known. That's why, what's the point of the rules from monk? To be known as it's not lay people's life. And anyone who cannot follow the rule can become lay people again. It doesn't matter at all to be truthful to the truth, but to understand what one's life is, to develop right understanding in the way of life different from lay people's life. One appreciate such life and follow the rule happily. Because not to have attachment even to things like lay people's life is so good. Not so attached to such object. So it depends on understanding who will develop right understanding in one's life, one's life, or lay people's life. That's all. That's why consider each rule to understand the point, just not to be overwhelmed with such lay people's life anymore. That's all. Is that not true? And some monks have wrong understanding. He thought that as people, lay people can have such and such way of life. It's the same because it's just reality, no one there. But it's so dangerous not to see the danger of akusala in any form, at any level. To think that one can follow one's life and live just like lay people. So what's the monk? Who's the monk? What for? No difference at all. So we can study monk's rule to know the truth that it's just for letting go, attachment. Because it is akusala and because the blame of lay people that, oh, how can monks live like lay people's life, like lay people? Otherwise, why become monk? If no intention to purify life as Buddha's life. Just follow his way. By the manners of citta, but no matter monk or lay people can develop right understanding and become enlightened. The truth is the truth. And as anything now can be object of understanding of any level of understanding, why not understanding what is there now and go away from now? Hoping, wishing, thinking that the other moment can be known. If this moment cannot be known, how can there be any condition for understanding what is there when one goes away to some place? Try to do something. While it's there already, see, and who is doing wrong understanding to condition something to arise, like sati and panya and samadhi, see. but it's there already unknown. Ekakata cetasika, one pointedness cetasika is there any moment. And when it's there on one object more, its characteristic can be known as samadhi and so on, but no one there at all. And no intention to have such object as the object of understanding. That is no understanding of the anatta-ness of what is there now. But to understand Dhamma or Dhammas are anatta, it has to be firm confidence of the truth. Now it's Dhamma, and now it's anatta, and it can be known, no matter what kind, what level of Dhamma, very weak or very strong, very tricky, or can be known by Panya. Otherwise, if one dies now, what about understanding anything? Not at all. Or try to do something wrong, which is not the teachings of the Buddha. There are two kinds of feel, right or wrong. So not understanding what is there now and try to do something in order to try to understand what one thing that one can do or can make it arise is the teachings of the Buddha. So it's not one's own idea, one's own thought, or one's own thinking about this and that as one thing that has to be like this. It has to be like this. How can it be like this at all? It's the reality itself. No one there at all. If there cannot be the understanding of this moment, how can there be the understanding one day of what is there as it's conditioned? No one knows what would be the next moment, realizing, experiencing what and what, impossible. But the truth is the truth. There are conditions for each moment to follow this moment from moment to moment, different by conditions. All can be known when there is the understanding of the truth of no matter realities are so very, very different. But the truth is that even so, they are under the two categories. One is that which arises and experiences an object, and the other arises but cannot experience anything at all, no matter in what world, 6 ways only. And if one does not understand the truth of what is there, no matter when and where and what, is there no more attachment and taking for thing and self or I. Who goes? I go. No understanding of the truth of what is there. Who is sitting? I am sitting. No matter, no understanding of what is there. Try to do something. It's already there. The reality which has the characteristic, the function of try to do, effort to do is there. As I all the time, as long as there's no understanding of the truth that it's different from other, the laziness and the effort, quite different. They are real, they are different, they are not self or anything at all. Is that the teaching of the enlightenment? Or is my own idea thinking that that is better? Remember Mekiya, the monk in the Buddha's time. He didn't carry the Buddha's bowl. He just left him and tried to go to the place that he thought that is so suitable. After that, no understanding at all, because it's not time to understand. So is it time to understand what is there when one goes somewhere without any understanding? of the truth that there are different levels of understanding. Is intellectual understanding firm enough? Is it, when it's firm enough, there's no idea that I will go somewhere to practice. Practice what? And how can it be practiced? Not the action, not the deed, not the position of the body, but the object like the selected one, breath and so on. When it's anatta, see, no one can control, no one can do anything, no one goes. So what is there? Right or wrong intention, right or wrong understanding? And what can condition understanding that one wishes to have? By going there, doing something, not understanding what is there, stage by stage. Pariyati does mean just hearing some words of the teachings, but it's the skill of understanding the truth by different manners, different naya, different aspects. To let go, the clinging to it by different angle, different ways, different aspects. See? So what is the teachings of the Buddha? Or what did Buddha say about intellectual understanding? Pariyati, very skillful to understand by different aspects, by different manners and ways. They are as they are, no matter in terms of ayatana or dhatu or Ariya Satya or Paticca Samuppada. The truth is there now. Whatever are there together is ayatana. That's why there is the word parsayatana. It means that pasa doesn't arise alone, and it's there together with other reality, other cetasikas and citta that it arises with. And it's there now. And it's gone without understanding, not enough hearing, considering of the truth of each word about the truth of what is there. Taught by the Buddha for 45 years in details about everything in life. No matter at what time, right understanding can understand it when it has developed enough to that degree. Can one object appears at a time as nimitta? See? So going to the meditation center to practice what? And now people cannot see the Buddha, but to understand or to see Buddha is from understanding his word. So each word of his teaching about the truth is his body or kaya, Dhammakaya, to be seen. If there is no understanding of his word, no Buddha can be known. What's meant by the enlightenment? So very high of understanding much more than what he taught.
Thank you, Ajahn.
And I would like to add just a few words to Ajahn's very helpful words in relation to Carmen's question. Why is it okay to go on pilgrimage or go to discussion, but not okay to go to retreat? And my short comment is that the way that is put is in reference to situations, going to discussion, going to retreat, going pilgrimage, etc. These are situations, not moment-to-moment realities. But the real question is, what is right view, what is wrong view? And Ajahn has been explaining at length just what those two dhammas are. And the point to remember is that the idea of undertaking a practice is not right view, it's wrong view. Because the Buddha didn't teach any kind of practice. He taught the actual understanding of realities as the development of the path, not doing something to have understanding. And so if we consider it, what is the purpose of going to retreat? Well, for most people, it's the practice side of the time spent there. Sure, it's possible that there will be some discussion about the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, but the main purpose for most people going to retreat is to undertake the practice as guided by the instructor. And so it is possible just to generalize, I suppose, and point out that the person who has right understanding of the development of the path would have no particular reason to go to retreat. And I think the comments that one may hear here from time to time have to be understood in that context. It's not saying that one shouldn't do this or do that, but it's really a reflection on one's understanding of right view and wrong view.
Jonathan, while you were there, may I ask you a question in relation to a comment that you made last week during the discussion? And it was around about the notion of the self, and you made the distinction between the idea of self and I think you
individual.
Yes, the individual
Yes.
stream of chitta and cetasika. And I suppose what I'd like you to clarify a little bit is how that is not almost the same as the idea of self, because that uniqueness seems to be trending in that direction, or a very tempting way of thinking very subtly, but still somehow with an underpinning of the idea of self. So would you like to just say a little bit more about that, Jonathan, please?
Well, I suppose the way we think of it, yes, the individuality of each person is a reflection of their true self, as we might say in conventional language. But when we have studied the Buddha's teaching, we realize that the difference between individuals is due to different accumulated tendencies and different deeds done in the past, bringing different results in this lifetime. And to understand, on the one hand, that there are those differences is not in contradiction to an understanding that what brings about those differences are just moments of different dhammas arising and falling away in succession and without an abiding self.
Yes, so it's still by conditions, but it's how do we get round the uniqueness?
I think the uniqueness is just that there has to be a difference, because the accumulated tendencies of one stream of citta cannot be the same as the accumulated tendencies of another stream of cittas, because those streams of cittas are each discrete.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, but they are still only momentary cittas, one following after another. So there's uniqueness, but not some lasting entity. Uniqueness, but still only momentary risings and fallings away of consciousness.
So again, uniqueness by way of conditions.
By way of conditions, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was
So
just struck
not
by,
easy to, yeah.
yes, it I guess it caught my attention as being well, just another subtle
The individual who has become enlightened and has no more wrong view still perceives different beings in the world, and it finds each one is different from the other. It can recognize one from another. So even though there's no wrong view of any kind, still immediately recognition of person A as person A and person B as person B.
I think it probably also draws attention to how subtle the idea of self is. You know, it can be quite tempting to think that we have a handle on that, but in fact, it's very subtle and elusive, and you know, one of the reasons why it's so difficult to eradicate, I suppose, just one of the reasons.
I think it is difficult, and I think that, as I understand the Buddha's teaching, the task is not to identify idea of self whenever it appears, but to understand realities. And then the more one sees the momentariness and the impermanence of conditioned realities, that in itself is a condition for the idea of self to be watered down gradually. Yes.
So indirectly, the idea of self is dismantled, not.
Yes, indirectly, and it's not that one moment there's idea of self and the next moment it's all been eradicated, but it gradually gets worn away by understanding, as understanding accumulates and develops to higher and higher levels.
Yes.
And I think the enlightened being doesn't necessarily think, oh, suddenly no self, because that idea really got whittled away long ago for the enlightened being. It's not that there's a strong idea of self just before enlightenment and then no idea of self. It's been whittled away over the many lifetimes that understanding has been developed. And it's not that it's suddenly not there for him or her.
That's actually a helpful way of seeing it as a consequence of understanding.
Yes, I think that's very much what it is too.
Oh.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on this, Jonathan? I find that a very important point that you mentioned now.
Well, in short, it's just the idea that what's important is developing understanding of what is there. without worrying about how strong the idea of self might be at any given time. That's the main message of the Buddha, I think. Understand all these realities, including, of course, wrong view if and when it presents itself, but not something that one has to particularly target to reduce or get rid of, because it naturally falls away as understanding of the realities that are appearing is developed.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Very helpful.
Thanks, mate.
As always.
So Sita, back to the question about the Vinaya and following up from last week. I think the main point, as Ajahn was stressing, is that the Vinaya and the rules are not just for memorizing and following, because this can all be with clinging and ignorance. But the point is that the Vinaya, just like any part of the Tipitaka, is for the understanding of different dhammas. So if there is no understanding about the different kinds and degrees of attachment and other unwholesomeness, then just following the rules for the sake of it, or just in order to please the senior monk or the preceptor, is quite useless. So it all comes back to the understanding at this moment. And that's why when we talk about going on retreats or going for meditation, what about the understanding at this moment? What about the understanding when one wishes to focus on an object, or wishes to have more concentration, or wishes to have less defilements, or try so hard to have right effort? What is the citta at this very moment? So whatever we study or consider, it is for the purpose of understanding. So it's not that going here is good and going there is bad, but the point is that seeing is seeing, no matter whether it is here or at the retreat or in India or at home or at work. It's still just the same conditioned reality, no matter whether it's the seeing of an animal or the seeing in the Deva realm. It's still just seeing, which experiences a reality, not my seeing. So all the teachings are for the understanding of dhammas as anatta. But as Jonathan said, while we just think in terms of conventional situations, there will never be the understanding of the realities and the purpose, the right purpose of studying the Buddha's teachings.
Yeah, it needs a lot of consideration. Yeah, that's why I was thinking, even in Buddha's time, the monks who was in the Sangha also, there was perhaps some, not all have all this enough understanding. If not, he was not, if not, he had, why he planned, he has such a negative plan. From there, you have to be develop understanding. That means he has not true enough understanding. Am
And
I
if
right?
there isn't enough understanding and confidence in
yeah.
the truth as taught by the Buddha. One can never live that life happily and easily, because there will always be doubts. There will always be the idea of I trying to do something, trying not to have attachment, or trying to follow the rules. So it will never be the natural, easy living that of this way of life according to one's accumulations. So the understanding always has to come first. Otherwise, one will just be trying to follow the rules with clinging and ignorance, and it won't help at all.
Yeah.
And one
Yeah.
won't see the value of these this way of life as laid down by the Buddha, which is for the living of the pure life.
Yeah, that was for me is also a big question mark. Why I think the name he was Subhada, why he was all this time he was not staying truthful to the truth, and suddenly when Buddha passed away, he tried to influence other monks.
It's always because, yes, not enough confidence in the truth, not enough confidence in the
exactly
Buddha's teachings, like later when there was a schism and the monks tried to get rid of certain rules. And again, it's not seeing the value of understanding the slightest faults and all kinds of akusala, and the living the pure life of the Arahat. As Ajahn said, if it's not one's way of life to live easily like this, one can live as a lay person and follow as many rules as one likes. One doesn't have to make any announcement. One can be considerate to other and be careful in the way one eats or the way one speaks, the way one walks, one's manners and behavior. One can follow as much as is possible, but happily and with understanding.
Yeah, that's why it was like a blessing in disguise that because that happened, that this monk, I think Mahakassapa was the one who said we have to now to keep the authenticity of this Buddha's teaching, and if not, it was there are mixed up from other sources. That was the reason why today we have this authenticity of Buddha's teaching. Was the reason.
As Ajahn said earlier, those that don't follow properly and with understanding actually lead to the destruction of the teachings.
Yeah.
I think too, Sita, in the case of Subhadra, excuse me, he said, let's do what we like. We're glad that the great samana has gone. We can just do what we like. And obviously he had very strong wrong view from his comments when we read them in the Vinaya. So it's not just a matter of like, we can do what we want. Let's be rid of this fellow, as he said in reference to the Buddha, which was an indication of his very wrong understanding of the Buddha's teachings. And Mahakassapa, of course, as you alluded to, had a profound understanding of the depth and the wisdom of the Dhamma, and he had been given by the Buddha, the Buddha had given him his Sangati. He was now he took that as a profound responsibility when the Buddha passed on the mantle in some respects to him by giving him his robe. And so he knew what he had to do. He'd well planned on that as he was coming to the Buddha's last funeral rites. And the Buddha, even though he had died, they could not set fire to anyway, I didn't go too far, but he had taken upon himself that this is important. The Dhamma is so profound and so precious, and we can't have this fellow doing what he's saying, and which is so perverse in a way. And I think it would have been done anyway, whether Subhadra said this or not, because they wanted to bring together all the Dhamma in one place so that it would be a gift for those who followed. So that fellow Subhadra, he had this idea, but it was obviously a very, very perverted idea. And I think many people at the time, not only Mahakassapa, would have seen it as perverted also.
Yeah. Thank you, Sundara.
Jonathan, you were talking about undertaking the practice when talking about going to meditation center to undertake the practice. Reminding me of the undertaking the precepts, and how would you differentiate between the undertaking the practice and undertaking the precepts? Would you say, you think that would be different activity, different
different
way
mental
of,
state? Well, undertaking
also
the precepts is a recitation. It could be done either with right view or wrong view. And when I talked about undertaking practice, it was not a different use of the word undertaking. It means doing a practice. And as we know, practice, as generally understood, means doing something in order to be conducive to the arising of understanding or wholesome mental states, in the belief that this is the teaching of the Buddha. Whereas undertaking the practice is, undertaking precepts is a resolution, if you like, to follow a certain lifestyle, but not necessarily leading to enlightenment, not necessarily with the idea that this is the path taught by the Buddha leading to enlightenment. But it could also be with wrong view. If one thinks that it's a condition for more kusala to undertake the precepts, then that would be a mistaken idea also.
Yeah, I think it's
so
interesting.
I'm not sure that the undertaking the precepts is anywhere found in the teachings or not, whether it's, I'm not aware it was ever mentioned by the Buddha. I think it's a lay practice, a custom.
In Pali, it's Sikkapada Samadhyami, undertake the precept of not killing, not stealing.
Yes, but is that found in the teachings? Or is it just mentioned as a convention, that something that people did, lay people did? They went to the temple on holy days and took the precepts and stayed in the temple and followed certain precepts.
I think they can also refer to the Vinaya in general, to any rules. It's referred to as Sikha it's a training. It's training in the rules in the Vinaya. It's.
I don't think they're rules laid down by the Buddha for lay people, though. The Buddha didn't lay down any rules for lay people.
And it's not, we're talking about rules, but it's not really a rule. It's more like, not even for monk, it's not rule. As Ajahn was saying, if one cannot follow the rule, it's free from leaving to this robe and go back to lay life. It's more like a training.
They are rules in the sense that if they're contravened, then there's a consequence within the Sangha.
Yeah, it just means
it has to be confessed, for example, for one thing.
I think it's like failing an exam, like you're not passing the exam, which is more than a rule. It would be more like a course of study or something like it needs to be passed in order to be in order to progress to the next level or to the next study. I'm just guessing here. Yeah, thank you anyway.
If I can add something as well, it's, ordinary people who don't study and whatever, and us too, we go through life day to day and we're not thinking of the Dhamma all the time. And this is a way for the monks to remind people to be thinking of, to contemplate perhaps on the precepts, to consider them, to contemplate, to think about them, so that one could, if one did contemplate and consider and think deeply about them, it could be a way for understanding to arise. But then most people just go to the temple, they hear that, and they repeat the 5 precepts, and then they go home. But that's, but it could, for instance, anything. That's also the reason why there are Buddha images. The purpose of the Buddha image is to be reminded of the Dhamma, to be thinking of some aspect of the Dhamma when one sees the Buddha image. It can act as a condition for thinking about the Dhamma, thinking about some aspect of the Dhamma.
But it all depends on the right understanding of no
yes,
self.
Of course.
Otherwise, there's clinging to self. So that is
what it's meant to be, regardless of the level of understanding of the person.
And it all comes back to this moment, like one can say, I will abstain from clinging now. There may be some kusala, it may just be clinging to self, or maybe just repeating what one has heard with ignorance. And who knows, 5 minutes later, when there's a cockroach, who knows what will happen. And it's the same with Buddha image. It may just be with clinging and wrong view, thinking that there is a Buddha somewhere to take care of one or to answer one's prayers and requests for a next life. So it always comes back to this very moment. And that's why we were stressing that the Vinaya is for understanding, not just for reciting and memorizing. And the understanding of the harm, the danger of killing now is more precious than just repeating, I will undertake a rule not to kill, something like this.
And John, so when in the suttas, when there's references to the keeping of the precepts, it's usually referred to what happens in the people who have become enlightened, right? when the Buddha describes someone who have become enlightened, he doesn't kill, he doesn't steal, and so on. It's actually there's no mentioning of undertaking precepts like we see today, right? Is what you meant?
That's what I meant. That's what I was referring to, yes. I think there are some references to the custom of lay people to go to the temple on holy days and take precepts and observe precepts. But they are passing references. It's not part of the doctrine of the teaching of the Buddha.
Okay, thank you.
And perhaps Ajahn will be able to say a few more words on this subject. Are you there, Ajahn?
Hi. Yeah, I forgot to turn on the mic. Can there be a moment of intention to abstain from killing by oneself? No need to tell anyone. Or do we have to tell the other, I keep precept or I abstain from killing, for example? Is a sila, or what is sila? The manners of citta and cittasika, the way it is. Right or wrong, wholesome or unwholesome. And when people in the Buddha's time went to the temple and observed precept, can there be observing precepts before going to the temple? Or do they have to go there in order to receive or accept or recite the precepts? Read carefully. 3 kinds of uposatha. What does it mean? Even at home, is it possible to observe 8 precepts, not just only 5, by conditions, to be truthful? Or even there is no word about I will abstain or so on, but the intention is there. But when time comes, faced to the situation for killing, is a killing or no killing, depending on conditions. That's why there are just samadhana, the intention to abstain from ill deeds, and the moment of whatever is there to be killed is the condition not to kill. Virati cetasika, the one there arising one at a time to abstain, not to kill that object. See, all are not served, depending on what is there, which abstain, and what is there when one observes precepts as monks. Certain confidence of what? Of wholesomeness, of the moment of abstaining from akusala, more and more subtle, seeing the danger of even just smelling the lotus in the pond in Tipitaka, see, and the might ask the Deva, why the lay people do not have such danger, because life monk is different from lay monks. And if one would like to have less akusala, one can read Tipitaka and understand more of the danger of akusala. And there can be moment of intending to do the good deeds through speech and action more, just like a monk, but no one knows at all. That's why Vinaya, what is the meaning of Vinaya? Do by way of speech and deeds, less attachment, less akusala. The way to eliminate the moment of wrong manners, which is conditioned by akusala. That is sila, the moment of sila, the actual sila, not just the line or the word, but it's life, and life is chitta and cetasika and rupa. That's why the way one lives is different to be monk or to be lay people. By conditions, by accumulation, to be truthful. Some people would like to become monk, but no need that they do not want to study at all. Just want to be monk. Is that to be a monk, a monk's life for? Just to be monk, what for? Attachment to the idea of self. So that monk is not monk according to Vinaya. When there's no understanding of being a monk to live the life that is so pure, purer than the people's life. That's all. But understanding is different by conditions. And in truth, we don't have to tell anyone how many rules we are observing or being in mind not to do such and such, which is not wholesome at all. Even it's not said in word, but it's there in mind, accumulated. And that is sila too, the manners of chitta and cetasika, to be wholesome or unwholesome, kusala sila, akusala sila. That is the reality of sila. Wholesome reality is wholesome deeds, wholesome speech, all kind of wholesomeness is sila. The manners, the way one behaves, chitta and cetasikas behave. That's why understanding the kusala sila, akusala sila, one understand the point that motivate one to become monk. Otherwise, not following the rule, not study the Dhamma, can that be monk? So now we know who's monk and who's not monk. Kusala sila, akusala sila. And today is, why does one go to the temple? And why does one not go to, doesn't one go to the temple? See, what for? Is going to the temple sila or what? No one, only different realities. Wholesome realities and unwholesome realities. And is there any difference of seeing now and seeing at the meditation center? Hearing now and more and hearing there, is there any difference? Just hearing and seeing itself? All depends on understanding what is meant by enlightenment, the truth, the absolute truth of what is there now. They do not appear as they are at all. To be truthful to the truth, to understand the truth. Otherwise, there is no way, no path leading to understanding directly what is there now as it is. and think about terms like sila and on and on. Chitta, how many of them, Cetasikas and so on. What about now? It's that what we have heard about it, but it's not time yet to understand what is there as we have studied, as no one and no thing. Chitta, different from Cetasikas. And what is meant by sila. So if it's not the behavior of Chitta and Cetasikas, what is sila? It's a little more understanding of the nature of that which is there. By conditions, hearing again, considering again, the truth is there appearing. But the understanding has to develop on and on and on, little by little, to eliminate the ignorance accumulated in life, eons and eons, uncountable, beyond expectation. How many moments of the accumulation of akusala? It seems like we just talk about what is there again and again and again, never enough, as long as it doesn't show up little by little as it is. To consider each word like the chitta is the chief of experiencing an object, only one at a time. See, only one cannot appear as only one at a time. Many of them together succeed one another to make the nimitta of a seeing and hearing different characteristic, but many seeing now, many moments of hearing now. Because at moment of hearing sound is not the moment of understanding the meaning of the sound. But it seems like as soon as it's heard, the meaning is there already. Everything is just like that. Covered up by ignorance, so dark, because either it's so close, it's not known. So in order to understand the truth, it has to know where it is. Now, here, not there, but learning to understand that which is so very close right now, that what is there has to be only one at a time appearing. Even there are so many things, but they do not appear, they cannot be known. Only that which now shows up, appears, seeing, but the idea of I see is so very strong, accumulated, not to let go. The moment of seeing as I, that's why learning little by little to understand the truth, to have more confidence of what is there in life. Only 6 star ways, excuse me, not 3, 6 star ways. They cannot be separated because now they seem like they are together, seeing and thinking, liking at once. But in truth, Buddha taught about the way just one moment is different from other moments. Seeing, hearing, what are there in between? Even the Bhavanga is there in between, unknown. Everything is unknown. But it can be known little by little to understand the truth intellectually, to have confidence enough to directly understand what is there, which hasn't been known before at all. Like hardness is there all the time. It depends on whether it's known now or still no attention, no awareness, not understanding, only that which is hard, because there are many things together so soon at once. So how can it be known as it is? It does not appear well to ignorance, but it begins to appear as it is a reality from moment to moment of understanding what is there as it is. Seeing its condition to arise and see, that's all. It's so true. No matter what is there, arises by conditions. Without condition, it cannot arise at all. And there are many, many conditions that we have studied about it, like Saha, Chata, Pajiya, Chitta and Cetasika are there together, but Chitta is not Cetasika. If it is not known yet, there must be the idea of I, no matter what is there. Seeing, liking, disliking, ignorance, attachment, all in a way are not so at all. They are different realities, beginning to have confidence of they are different realities, conditioned to be different from moment to moment. Just once in samsara, never to arise again. It gradually develops the letting go of ignorance and clinging, taking it for something very, very subtle. And that is the very, very subtle path, the fourth Ariya Satya. See, no one knows. Try to do something, going somewhere. That is not the path. The path is so subtle. It is the moment of understanding only. Sammatiti. See, so the other reality arising with it performs the function according to level of understanding. That's why there are many terms for different level, different degrees of reality. Even attachment, aversion, yapata, dosa, and so on. Just hear the word, thinking over it, understanding it until it appears to understanding as it is, little by little. This is patient, khanti, parami. No doubt about what is meant by parami. And it's now parami too, at moment of understanding the truth, which is so very subtle. All dhammas are subtle. Because it's there now, but it cannot be known. It's so close now, but it's not being aware of. So what word is so true? Sila is the manners of Chitta and Cetasika. So different. That's why Buddha laid the rule for monks to behave in wholesome manners, not as like people anymore. Like people can ask for anything, food or whatever, shoes and so on, but monk cannot. Seeing the danger of clinging, even just to ask for it. It's not one's life, so pure. Did the monk in the Buddha's time, before he made the rule, have not choose at all? That's why Buddha laid the rule for monks for the better health life. Not for having more attachment, but to understand what can be the object for living without so much attachment in a day, like people. And I believe that someone just speak and do something like what is meant for monk in Vinaya. When one understand and sees the value, the benefit of wholesome deeds, wholesome speech, without counting how many rules one behave or one follow. And that's the way of letting go attachment to their self little by little, directly or indirectly. It's Dhamma daily life, any moment, no one there at all. Just hearing the truth, consider it, have more confidence of the truth. That's the way it let go by right understanding only. Naturally, little by little, is having discussion on Dhamma, Sila. And what did Vinaya say about study Dhamma for monk? As lay people study Dhamma, why monks do not study?
Sorry, Ajahn, I don't know what the Vinaya says about the monks to study Dhamma. Can you explain these points, because I just don't know about these rules. Thank you.
From the very beginning, why does one become monk? Not to study Dhamma or what?
No, for sure. But I just don't know which rules in the Vinaya concern the studies of Dhamma. So
as it's one's life already, right? To be a monk, to study Dhamma, to let go ignorance, attachment, unwholesome deeds and speech in general. So Buddha didn't lay the rule instantly for anyone in his time until many years went by and monk behaved in such unwholesome ways. So he laid the rule for monk not to do such and such, because it has happened by kilesa, that is not monk life. So understand what monk's life is, and then the rule after the monk didn't do, didn't have manners in speech and deeds, wholesome manners.
I think, Tam, whenever the Buddha was addressing the monks or the lay people, it was always for the purpose of studying Dhamma. Here, studying Dhamma doesn't mean how much one has read of the text or how many Pali terms one has learnt. It means understanding the reality now, the seeing now, the hearing now. So wherever the Buddha taught, it is about the study, the understanding of reality right now. This is what is meant by study. So whoever he was addressing, monks or lay people, it was for the purpose of study, for understanding life as it is at this moment.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. I have no doubt about that. But when I was listening to Ajahn, I thought that there were some specific rules about the monks having the duty to study Dhamma. So I because I don't know those, so I would like just to to clarify that point and to hear more. Thank you.
Is it known from the very beginning what monk is or what monk has to do? But when any monk didn't do the way of monk, Buddha laid the rule for all monks to understand what is Vinaya, not to do this or do that.
If I can just add, I'm conscious the time is getting close to closing. I just in response to your question, Alberto, I was remembering the Khuddaka Nikaya, the Minor Readings book, the commentary there, and it says here, herein these 10 training precepts were pronounced by the Blessed One himself, not by disciples, and so on. And they were pronounced by him at Sawati in Jeta's Wood, under Tapindika's Park, when he arrived at Sawati from Kapilawatu, after giving the Venerable Rahula the going forth, the purpose being to give novices a definition of the training precepts. For this is said, then when the Blessed One had stayed at Kapilawatu as long as he chose, he set out to wander by stages to Sawati. And so doing, he eventually arrived at Sawati. Then he lived in Jeta's Wood, under Tapindika's Park. Now on that occasion, it occurred to the novices, how many training precepts have we? And they told the matter to the Blessed One, who said, Bhikkhus, I allow 10 novices training precepts, and training in them by novices. They are abstention from killing, breathing things, and so on, right up to abstaining from accepting gold and silver. And these were also found in the Vinaya and also in the Digha Nikaya. There are other references here. So, yeah, it does appear that he quite clearly put, Panati Pata, so on, Wairamani.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sundar. And the behavior of, as Ajahn was explaining, is the behavior of kusala and akusala, and understanding.
Yes,
and understanding is the only way to train.
Yes,
to follow
certainly.
the rules.
Ultimately, true. Ultimately, yeah.
No matter
the novices were, the novices were inquiring at the time, and that's why he promulgated those training precepts. And of course, ideally, they are to be done with understanding and with kusala. However, we can easily imagine, and I think this is alluded to earlier on, that taking those precepts can either be done with kusala or akusala.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Sundar.
And what about time for eating for monk? See, he laid the rule after monk all understand what is the right time for eating for monk. Before that, monk just eat anytime like people.
Yes, it was quite an interesting one that Ajahn, there was a bhikkhu who was wandering late at night, and a flash of lightning illuminated him in the distance, and this woman got very frightened, and the Buddha laid down the rule that monks should only eat in the forenoon. Just also sometimes bhikkhus with understanding, like I remember in the case of Anuruddha bhikkhu, who no doubt, it's very clear, had much understanding, but still he stayed overnight in a particular place where the Buddha said he should not have been alone with another woman, So sometimes rules were made because the Buddha saw that it was inappropriate, even though the person, in this case Anuruddha, had deep understanding of the Dhamma. So the rules were made not only, of course, when monks were behaving, as you alluded to, Tanajan, inappropriately or not well, then that's understandable. And he put these rules one by one over time, and not all together as the situation arose. And of course, when the people, the bhikkhus, broke a certain rule, like even a parajika, like some of the all the parajikas, the first time the person was still a bhikkhu, but after that they were not, even though, of course, in the case of parajika, they still stayed on, but that rule was put in place after the bhikkhu behaved very inappropriately. So, but he was still allowed to stay as a bhikkhu.
I think we can continue on this topic or related topics next time. Thank you very much, Ajahn, and everyone. Sawadika.
Thank you.
Thank you.